Welcome to the webcast today. Today we are going to take a deep dive into the art approval function of GraphicsFlow. And as you all should know by now, that GraphicsFlow is a web app. It has a multitude of features. One of the really important features of the web app is art approvals. And this is actually an art approval right here. Think of this art approval as a web showcase. This is a way to obviously get customers to sign off on artwork, but it's also a really great way to showcase ideas for your customers. If you want to get something in front of a client where you're not having to, go through and do all this processing of custom art. I was talking to a customer earlier today in Colorado, and she was explaining to me kind of the process that she goes through working with coaches during her busy time of the year. And one of the most frustrating things she has is nailing them down on the artwork because frankly, they just wait to the last minute. They're very busy. And she ends up fighting with them on artwork, and they'll go to the internet and they'll try to find something. And then they'll say, hey, can you do something like this? And then she has to do custom artwork. It's a pretty dysfunctional thing, or just getting a hold of them. And so I was explaining to her how she could utilize her art approval function in GraphicsFlow to just get ideas in front of the client. And she asked me, I thought was a very good question. She goes, can I put the previous artwork I did for that client in an art approval so they could see their last year's designs and then put some new ones in there? And I go, yeah, that's a really great idea. And in fact, what you can do with that same page is you can put all the designs you've ever done for that customer and send them a view only link for that. And then they can, anytime they want to go and view all their art. And if they need to do a reorder, they know what to call the file when they send it to you. So the way you would do that is if you created an art approval, you just go to the sharing and say invite, and then you just grab a view only link. You can also give them a commenting link too if you wanted to have the ability to make comments in the app. I think that would actually be a pretty good idea if you're sending them a link. So think of that as their own little private web page where you've stored artwork. They can't access the artwork, but they can certainly see it and refer to it and comment on it. So art approvals is a lot more than art approvals. It really is a showcase. And incidentally, when you post one of those links, the customer doesn't see any of this stuff over here. All of these things over here, this is just internal. They don't see this. And so let's go over to the main panel on GraphicsFlow. Let's talk a little bit about art approvals. So when you're doing an art approval, there's three ways to get artwork into the approval. Way number one would be to upload files into your My Art. Let GraphicsFlow catalog all those files and create beautiful previews of those. Way number two would be to directly upload into an art approval. It's another way of doing it. And way number three is to add artwork from the stock design ideas or clip art to the art approval. I'm going to, for the sake of this particular exercise we're going to do, I'm actually going to use My Art to show you how I did that. And there's actually a project I've been working on, a real world project. And in that real world project, we were creating sample files for our sales team. And I wanted to get those samples files over to my sales team so they could see, what all this great work that I tried to create these cool files so they could use those in their demos for GraphicsFlow and Printavo and as well as Inksoft. And so I created these files. These are all files that I created in GraphicsFlow. I customized these files in the stock art customizer in GraphicsFlow, and I bulk uploaded the entire folder to GraphicsFlow, and then GraphicsFlow did this wonderful job of creating previews for me, including the DST files. So here's the two DST files right here, created a preview of those. Bear in mind, DST files don't have color data, so we can't map those to colors. But I did also create a PNG preview of the new file. I actually used the new Drawings 12 software to do that, which is amazing. So I created these embroidery files, and then I created just a general kind of a pennant file. I created these cross-country files, some football files. You notice this is a theme. This is a thing that you can do as well. It doesn't take very long to customize these files. And if you wanted to get some ideas in front of a customer and you really wanted to go after that client, taking the time to localize these for a specific customer, I think is a really great idea. And I did this because when our sales team uses these files for demos, I want them to present that information the same way as a collection of like products that have graphics that have some synergy between them, that have a similar kind of a look and feel, that have the same colors for the same organization. So we're basically showing off. So first step I did was taking these files and just uploading them. Now, if I want to get these files into an art approval, there's a variety of file formats I can use. I can select the PDF version of the file. In this case, I also have a PNG version of the file. I have an SVG version of the file. I don't have a CDR version of the file that I uploaded, but I could also use a CDR file. And if I was using Adobe Illustrator, I could have the Adobe Illustrator version of the file. Now, there's an advantage to using PDF, PNG, SVG, and Adobe Illustrator over CorelDRAW files. When we upload the CorelDRAW file, we're extracting the preview that's internally built into the Corel file, so it's not as sharp, and it's always going to have a white bounding box around the perimeter of it. If we use a PDF, PNG, SVG, or AI file, you're not going to, we're actually creating those previews on the fly, and what we're actually doing is creating a PNG preview. So you can view the file, but it's not going to have the white bounding box around it, and it's going to be at higher resolution. And from my experience, usually for doing presentations, PNG files are great. And all of the stock designs in GraphicsFlow, all the previews you see are all PNG previews. So there you go. So if I wanted to take these files and I wanted to add them to an art approval, probably one of the things I would do is I'd shift over here to list view. You notice I went to list view, and I can very easily isolate the PNG versions of the files. So I'm going to go over here and just kind of select the PNG versions of all these files over here. And this is what I'm going to use for my approval. And basically what we're doing is creating a showcase. And so I've just selected all these PNG files. Notice they're all selected. And I'm going to go over here to Actions. And then I'm going to say Add to Art Approval. Now, I'm going to create a new art approval from scratch. So if I already had an existing one, which I do, I could just click on this one and then add the files in there. But I already have those files added. So I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to say Create New Art Approval. And I'm going to go over here and name it. And I'll say Central Cougars Spring Design Spring Concepts. We'll just call it. Okay. And I'll put a little description in here. I put together you know how to type a group of our most popular designs for your review. So let's get for spelled correctly. All right. So this will actually be the header in that art approval. So to create it, all I have to do is just say create, and it's going to put those PNG previews in that art approval. And to view the art approval, I can just go over here to Art Approvals, and that's going to be sitting at the top of the list because it's the most recent one I've done, and I'm sorting by newest. So the newest one's going to be on the top. So this is all the stuff I've been working on. So we'll go ahead and click on that so you can see what's going on. Now, once I've created this, if I really want to, kind of jazz it up a little bit, what I can do is I can change the background colors. So bear in mind, customer's not going to see any of this stuff over here, but if you have internal notes that you want to keep, put these notes in there. And if you select a different coworker with those notes, they're actually going to get copied on that. So if you select if I selected, a coworker and I put the notes in, as soon as I put the notes in, they're going to get an email saying, hey, by the way, these notes pertain to you. Heads up, there's something you might need to do in order to work with this file. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on the actual graphic, and that's going to go to Detail View. I could also click on Detail View right here. So click on that. And a couple things going on over here. Number one, you see these little marks right here. So right now, if I go over here, there's my comments. If I go over here, there's my background and my watermarking. And so I'm going to go over here to background color, and I'm going to go to the drop-down list. And then I could just go and click into the background to change the color. But also if I had RGB values, which incidentally, all your Pantone spot colors have RGB values. So if you needed to match an exact Pantone, you could go into Corel or Illustrator, click on the color and look at the RGB values and type that in. Also, you have hex values in here, which are all the values for, basically hex colors you can see in your web browser for writing HTML. So there you go. So you've got the ability to, mix up colors here. But what I'm going to do is just move the slider over here because I just want to put this on gray. And incidentally, if you move this all the way in the upper left, that's white. So if you go all the way at the upper left, you're into the white area. All the way in the lower left is black. If you want the reddest red, just go into that corner. That's RGB red. 255 red, you don't get any redder than that. So I'm going to slide this back over here, and we're going to put that into kind of a gray color. Okay, this is just purely for presentation purposes. And let's say we have a client that maybe we don't trust. I can go in and we can turn a watermark on if we want to. But the other thing we can do, you know, if we turn that watermark on, we can turn the watermark on globally for all of the designs. And there's one little caveat to that. You can only turn watermarks on for designs you uploaded. We can't turn watermarks on for stock designs. So stock design, it's not going to be very risky because it doesn't have the customer's name and information and colors. It's, you know, because this is a pretty high resolution file. Your customer's not going to see anything this high a resolution, but it's a, you know, it's a print ready file when you're in, you know, the app, but when you're not in the app, it's not a print ready file. So if the customer tried to print it, they're going to get some pretty fuzzy looking prints and not going to be too happy. And frankly, if they wanted to pay somebody to go and rebuild that file, do you really need customers like that? Probably not. So I'm going to just click on text to flip on a watermark over here. And you notice the watermark I have is the dark color watermark. And then if I want to change it to the light color watermark, I can just click on light, which in this case, I don't think is going to look great. It's hard to say. So the light watermarks on something that's, you know, got a light background aren't going to look great. It's just going to look much better with the dark colored watermark. And if you didn't want a watermark, you could just say none and turn it off. But it's just kind of up to you how you want to deal with it. And, you know, it's a preference thing, you know, and do I feel it's necessary to watermark your artwork? I would say it's based on the trust level you have with the client. And some people can't trust them, so you put a watermark on it. Now, if you wanted to bypass that whole process, and here, we'll turn the white watermark off here, you would just go ahead and flip the watermarks on globally for the whole document. And so I think the way that I normally would do it is I would normally watermark the bigger version of the file and probably not watermark the virtual sample. If I added a virtual sample to this, that would be the way I'd be inclined to do it. So I'd watermark this one, but the virtual sample with, you know, the graphic on the product is going to be a lot smaller. I don't think it's really necessary to watermark it. And part of watermarking is just kind of tipping the client off to the fact that, hey, you know, we're not giving you permission to steal this graphics. You notice I just turn those all on, then I could turn them all off. So one thing I'd recommend doing is spending a little bit of time to go into the graphics and actually mock them up on some colors. And, you know, if you have different colorways to the graphic, maybe have a light version and a dark version. That's kind of a cool thing to do. So, you know, recolor the graphics for maybe, in this case, an ash shirt, but then recolor it for a navy shirt, meaning you'd probably take all the navy and turn it to white or gray. So there you go. So I have this art approval, and how am I going to get this to the customer? Lots of latitude in terms of doing that. So easiest way to do it is to use the internal emailing system in GraphicsFlow. So if I go over here and click on share and hit on invite collaborators, and if I'm on a pro or an elite plan, this is going to come with my branding on it. If I use our email system, so it'll have my logo and my branding. If I'm on a starter plan and I send an art approval out, it's going to say GraphicsFlow on it. Now, very important consideration. It will come from our emailing system. So it's going to come from the GraphicsFlow emailing system. So if you don't want it to come from the GraphicsFlow emailing system and you'd prefer it to come from your own email system, you can copy a link. But let me show you how it would work if we send it with our email system. I would just go over here and I'd put in the email for the customer, and I could put multiple emails in here as well. And you'll notice I have the ability to add a message. So that's going to be the message that's in the email. And then you'll also notice I can choose the level of interactivity they can have with this particular web page, because this is a web page that's being sent out. So they're going to get a link to a web page. So if I just want them to comment and view, I can say can comment. If you were sending this to a group of people, and let's say that group of people was going to collaborate on the art and comment, and they were going to kind of figure out which design they wanted. You wanted them to all view the artwork and all comment on the artwork. You'd use a commenting link. Bear in mind, when they go to comment, they have to put their email address in when they first view the actual art approval. So we've captured who is commenting on what. And so if you have somebody in the group that's kind of, you always have that one person in a group, they can't comment on an anonymous basis. They're commenting under their email address. So you can see who's talking and who's actually, contributing, so to speak. If you do comment and approve, then this person has the ability to both comment and approve. And you can do, if you use this system, you can give different permissions to different people. So you could give me commenting, approving, but you could give, person B just commenting or just viewing. So that is one of the advantages of using our emailing system, is doing it like that. But by popular demand, one of the things that customers had asked us to do, they're like, hey, listen, I don't want to use your email system. They might not recognize GraphicsFlow, and I'd like it to come from my emailing system. What can I do? Use the shareable link. And the shareable link is a great feature. And a couple reasons I love the shareable link. Number one, it's super easy just to populate this link and grab a link, like a comment and approve link, and put that into an email that you draft up your own email with exactly what you want to say. So you just create a draft email, paste that link in there, super quick, super easy. But you can also put these in text messages. And because GraphicsFlow is a web-enabled mobile app as well, so, if you have, it's mobile friendly. So if you send it out to somebody and they're checking it on their phone or their, iPad, you put it in a text message, they can look at the graphics on their phone. It looks wonderful. They can zoom in and all that kind of stuff. So the grabbing a link from a shareable link, I think, is the preferred way that most people utilize the art approvals. And again, 3 options: can comment and approve, can only comment, and view only. So I had a very interesting question from a client that had emailed me just prior to me doing the class and asked me, hey, listen, can I clone or can I copy an art approval and send it out to multiple people? And I emailed them back and says, you don't need to do that. All you need to do is just grab the view only email link. And if you use the view only link, you can send it out to 100 people, and none of them can comment or none of them can see each other's, activities. So that's something I always like to kind of point out, that view only link is really handy if you're doing a prospecting campaign. So let's take for instance, and we'll use this particular page right here. Let's say I wanted to do a prospecting campaign, and I wanted to send this out to the local schools in my area. And I've learned this from a lot of our clients that, especially folks that are, have seasonal businesses. I noticed Scott Siegel's on here, and he kind of tipped me off to this. He said, hey, listen, my business is kind of seasonal, and, he does a lot of work with the schools and teams and athletic type folks. And, if you're working with coaches and boosters and people like that, they have a tendency to wait to the last minute. And because the business is seasonal, most people need delivery within a set delivery window that's could be maybe plus or minus 2 weeks, or maybe, right when school starts. Now is the time. I know it seems kind of early. Now is the time to start kind of planting the seeds on the artwork with the client. So you're in front of you're first and foremost, and they're thinking about where they're going to, buy their merch from. And also you're kind of nudging them along on the creative process, so you don't have it all piling up on its own. And Scott had told me one of the things that he does is he uses art approvals to get a bunch of ideas in front of his buyers and to nudge them along on the art process. And one of the things that the couple of the tangible benefits of doing it that way are, number one is he can get the art out of the way, you get the order, process more quickly. But number two, all the production isn't piling up on itself, which can really crush your cash flow. If you're having all these orders invoicing within a very short span of time, close to each other, then you've got a lot of money out, and with not a lot of money back in. And that money will come in, month down the road, 2 weeks down the road, whatever your terms are. Let's be honest, people have a tendency to kind of, drag their heels. Or maybe if you're not allowing credit terms, then it's not as big a deal. But getting those orders in earlier and spacing them out, that's only possible if you can nail the artwork down ahead of time. So using this kind of a tool as a prospecting tool and sending this out in a bulk email campaign and saying, hey, listen, here's some designs that we did for some local schools in your area. This is kind of an idea of our capabilities. We're kind of getting ready for the fall season. We'd love to build something out custom for you. Here's a few starters. And so what I'd be inclined to do in that kind of a scenario is, number one, if you wanted to spend the time and actually localize 4 or 5 designs for that client, that's the gold standard. You do that, you've increased the probability of getting an order by considerable amount. Can't give you an exact number, but 2 to 3 times, that's kind of, you've upped the odds, by localizing this to their school and their team. They see it. It's the kind of the puppy dog thing. You put that puppy dog in your arms, and next thing you know, you're signing the adoption papers. It's kind of like that with artwork too. So that's the gold standard. But you can also just create a gallery of artwork that's maybe just within your local community. And I'll show you what one of those looks like. I'm going to go over here and go back to art approvals, and we created this one in, I think this was back to school is what I did. Can't remember which one I named it, but I created this one in a prior webcast. Yeah, here it is. And what I did is I picked all 5 schools from the Scottsdale school system. By the way, these are the same graphics I did in the central one. And I picked a different school and a different theme for each one. You notice that? Even did a colorways here. Here's it is on gray. Here it is on, kind of a cardinal red, or it's kind of more of a scarlet. Here it is. I've noticed I've mixed up the colors, so we've got a little bit more color variety. So why did I use local schools within my area? Very simple. I wanted to look like I'm doing business with those people. Even though I might not be doing business with those people, there's kind of an assumption that I am, because I'm using artwork from the local community. So somebody from Scottsdale High sees Scottsdale High, but then they also see, oh, wow, Chaparral and Arcadia and Coronado, and, all the other schools, Desert Mountain. Wow, this guy, this company, they know what they're doing. They're obviously pretty engaged in the community. So it gives you a lot of credibility doing it that way. And so this would be a typical type of page. I would absolutely spend the time to create the little background colors in here. I might go the extra mile and do virtual samples. If you're creating one of these galleries, I think doing a virtual sample is a really good move. And, people will ask me, why not do just the virtual sample? Here's why. If you click on that, that's as big as the graphic's going to be. It looks good, but it doesn't look like this. When you click on the actual graphic and you see this full screen, look at how much more impact that has visually. It just, wow, knocks you off your socks. So knocks your socks off, excuse me. So one of the things that we're going to do here is we are going to build this into an email marketing campaign. And so if you're utilizing a tool like good popular tools, MailChimp, and I'm not a big believer in making excuses, so I'm going to challenge all of you. If you don't have some form of bulk emailing capability, like a MailChimp or something of that nature, or Constant Contact, you need to do that. You can get free accounts. You need to do that, and you need to load your customer base into that document, and you need to get emails. You're likely getting emails from all of your customers, but you need to load your clients into the bulk emailing program. And one of the advantages of using a bulk email programming, there's advantage and disadvantage. Disadvantages, they're pretty strict on what you can email out. Like, you can't spam people. If you get caught spamming, you're probably going to lose rights to utilize that. And the way you're going to get caught spamming is there are going to be a lot of spam reports. Let's say you send out 100 emails and you get 20 spam reports, they're probably going to suspend your account. So obviously you want to utilize people, in court, people that you have a business relationship with, or, you've already, been contacting and talking to them. It's a little riskier to just put random people in there that you've never had any contact with. But getting set up with like a MailChimp, you can just even use a free account. If I went over to MailChimp and they got bought, they got bought by somebody. I want to say Intuit maybe owns them now. I believe that's correct. So if I go to MailChimp and I sign up for a free account, we use this in our philanthropic things that I'm involved in, and you look at pricing, you can get a free account. And free account, what do they give you? Yeah, up to 1,000 monthly sends. So you can send 1,000 emails a month, and it's quite a bit of bang for your buck. And so you upload your records. There's a limit on the number of contacts. that you can on a free account. I can't remember what the number of contacts is, but it's a decent number. And you can set up an email. It's super easy to do it the first time you do it. And you can email this link from your art approvals to that group of clients saying, hey, by the way, here's some examples. If you're going to do that, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put a little, a couple images embedded into the email itself so they get a little bit of a teaser. And then the other thing you could do is with those images, they could be hypertext links to the actual art approval. So you could put the hypertext link in there, but if they happen to click on the image, it goes there as well. So these links just sit out in space. The other thing you can do, which I think is really exciting, is embed these links into your art portal. How cool is that? And if you go to my art portal, and I'll go over here to art portal, you'll notice I have sub galleries in my portal. I've got quite a few of them. So why do I do that? Because when I'm working with clients, I want to show them kind of some of the scope of artwork that we do. So if they go to my, art portal, they can see a showcase for basketball or hockey or team sports or resorts, or I even did one for barbershops. So they can see that artwork and they might find something in there that they connect with. So this is the same link I'm sending on the email, but I've actually embedded this link into my art portal. And I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. Super duper easy. So, and bear in mind, when this is in the portal, I can see all this stuff right here because I'm logged into my account. Your customer can't see any of this stuff here. So the link that you would embed into your art portal is the view only link. That's how you would do that. So I've just created this experience for my customers where they can go in here and look at, say, military artwork or barbershop artwork or hockey or whatever faith-based artwork or farm and ranch, first responders, all of those things. So that's a secondary benefit to setting up art approvals to utilize them as a showcase. And one of the other things that you can do is you can showcase your own art. So I was talking to a client of mine who's a graphic designer, and I was asking him how he liked his GraphicsFlow. And one of the comments that he made after telling me how much he loved it is that he had spent some time going into his library of Illustrator files because he'd been using Adobe Illustrator for years and years and years. And what he did is he just did a search on his computer for Illustrator files, and he looked at all the files that he wanted, and he just kind of hand selected them and dragged them into folders based on theme. And then he uploaded those folders into his, software. And if you don't know how to do that, I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. And I'm not sure how to do it on a Mac, but I can show you how to do it on Windows. If you are in, a folder on the whole computer, if you just type in, like if you knew there were, Illustrator files in here, you just type in *.ai and it'll look just for Illustrator files. I don't have any Illustrator files in here, but I do have a bunch of curl files in here. So *.cdr, and you can do that in a individual directory or subdirectory, and then you can just click on these and drag them into a new folder. Now, what I would do is copy and paste them, because if you drag them, they're going to move them. So I just right click and say copy, and then paste them into a new folder. And I know there's a keyboard shortcut. If you click on it, it will copy them, not move them. I want to say it's Control or Shift. But this would be a great way for you to kind of organize your artwork. So he spent the time to organize his artwork into themes, and themes like first responders, and themes like hockey, and themes like mascot designs or school spirit designs. And then what he did is he bulk uploaded those files into GraphicsFlow. And so he put them into my art. And so check this out. If you wanted to create a little, design, and you have your favorite designs, and you could go into this folder and pick this one, add it to the art approval. You could go in and go to another folder and go into maybe over here, add another file over here. Boom, you could do that. Or better yet, you could actually reorganize these into little sub-galleries in my art. So you had a sub-gallery of your top 10 hockey designs, and you had a sub-gallery of your top, 10, basketball designs. And super easy on that basis. All you really have to do is you just have to say select all. So you go into your, list view, and you can just do a select all right here, and bam, add the whole thing to an art approval. Subscribe the client to it, maybe with a commenting link so that it's more personal to them, or just take the view only link, embed it into your art portal, or send it out in a blast email campaign to prospective clients. this is how the tool is designed to be utilized. And one of the things that I run into when I'm talking to prospective clients, they say, well, I already have my own art approval and my own approval process. That's fine. Usually when people have an approval process, usually has to do with product and sizes and pricing and maybe a virtual sample or something of that nature. That's pretty typical. But there's another part of the process, which is the art collaboration part. And when I was talking to my client that was a graphic designer, one of the things that he said, and it really kind of resonated with me, because, one of the things I really like about GraphicsFlow is I can send out an art proof without having it tied to a product. And so a lot of the, quote, proofing software, and that's even true of Inksoft and Printavo, in order to send a proof out, you have to actually tie it to a product with the price and a virtual sample. So you can't just send the artwork out. And so if you're working with somebody and you don't even want to talk about price till you get them, falling in love with your artwork, that's where GraphicsFlow is really handy. And it felt good to me for him to point that out to me, because I was like, yeah, that's the way I think too. It's like there's two steps to the process. Initial step is kind of narrowing down the field of artwork and getting them nailed down on the art. That way they know that they can only get that artwork from me and they can't get it from anybody else. And then the second phase is once I have them fall in love with the art, then I'll put the quote together. And maybe I don't have to be quite as price competitive when they can only get that design through me. That's a really, really important consideration. Now, when you are going to the phase where you're getting them to actually sign off on the art, it's a little bit different. So when you're getting them to actually sign off on the art, you're going to create an art approval that's just for approvals. And show you how to do that real quick. I'm going to go over here to my art. We'll create one. See if we can find one that's got a virtual sample in it. Maybe, let's see here. Yeah, I know one for sure I do as a virtual sample. Helped out a client with this one. This is an actual real job. Just help my customer out with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the hat PNG. I'm going to grab the logo PNG. I'm going to grab the t-shirt PNG. And that's it. And I'm going to just go over here and I'm going to say add to art approval. I'm going to create an art approval and we'll call this Beavers Ranch. Art approval. We'll call it that. And all I'm doing is creating this art approval and sending it off to the customer. The only purpose of this file right here is purely to get an approval. We've already talked to the customer. They've already kind of selected the artwork. We're going to go over here and pop this out to them. Oh, by the way, the other way you could do it is this way. You can just go over to my art, do it this way too. You can just create it and go that route too. So we'll go that route. I think this is the third one. Add the file. So there we go. So once you have this, do you need to change the background color? Yeah, I would probably do that so they can see it. So I'm going to put it on gray, which is similar to the color that's in the actual product. And then one little touch that I would probably do on this one, I would probably migrate the bigger version of the graphic to the top. So I'm just going to move this to the top. So I'm going to hit the two top right here. So this is there. And then kind of like the cap to be the second thing there on the order. And any kind of commentary that I want to put in here on the design, like for instance, I set this design up for gray, but we can easily add black as well. Okay, so I'm just putting that in the description, not in the comment. I'm just putting that in the description. Comment is going to generate an email back and forth. So what I want to do with this one when I share it is I want to use that link that's comment and approve. This is ultimately going to get signed out by the client. So I'm going to send it out with the comment and approve link. And so now they're looking at it and they're like, I like the idea of black. So they put a comment, I like the idea of black. Okay. Can you mock this up? Okay, so they've asked for black. As soon as they get sent, they get a corresponding email validating that they sent it. You get an email saying, hey, this was sent. You also get a message in the app says, hey, there's a message on this art approval. And you can say, sure thing. I will need to recolor the design, get it back to you. Okay, so you'd have to go in and recolor this file. Now, if you're using the stock art customizer to do this, super easy to recolor in the stock art customizer to create a colorways. So then you wouldn't have to actually download it and do that editing in CorelDRAW. You could do it right in the customizer, which I actually set this file up in the customizer. So I could actually do that. But this is a communication system. And so one of the things that's great about the way this works is all of the communication is being stored in this web page. This is the quote truth for this particular art approval. Now there's email backup, so they're getting emails when there's communication. So you've got that email backup, but the truth for this art approval is in this web page. So if we're trying to do a he said, she said kind of a thing, you know, we don't have to go back and try to track down 27 emails. All the comments are right in here. Any kind of activity that's gone on in here is right here. And so when they go and do the final approval, and they can approve, they can put in additional comments when they approve, and we'll go over here and approve this one just to verify the t-shirt is black, is going to be black. The cap is the charcoal gray. Right? So they put that in there. That comment will be in the approval. So that's stated in there. And they got to click on your disclaimer. And why is the disclaimer important? It's important for a couple of reasons. Number one is, you know, the artwork is going to look the same on the screen, your screen versus their screen, but the colors aren't because their monitor is probably not calibrated. So if you have like mission critical colors that you're trying to nail down, like say Pantone colors are going to look a little bit different from screen to screen to screen, and they're certainly going to be look different on a phone versus on a, you know, $4,000 color calibrated monitor, right? Nobody has those, but movie people do. So being able to say, hey, you know, we strive to display colors as accurately as possible, they're going to look different. And you're acknowledging this fact and waiving any claim of dissatisfaction due to color, number one. And number two, it's not a bad idea to let them know they can't take this artwork to anybody. My dad used to say, don't leave the money on the counter, leave the room and expect to come back and find it. So you just don't want to make it easy for people to take your creativity and your ideas over to other shops. And most people have been in the business a while have had an experience like that. Whose fault is that? Yeah, I can't really debate that fault, but you certainly made it easy on them to do that because you never had that conversation up front with them and said, hey, listen, you know, if we're going to do this art development, you can't take this to another vendor. We own the art. You're only permitted to use it if we produce the products that we're doing. And you would think that that would be assumed, but it isn't. And some people have what I like to call flexible ethics, and they're just completely fine having you do the art and shop it over to somebody else and have them do the printing. And if you think you're going to sue them, yeah, you could sue them, and you could get their website taken down with a Digital Millennium Copyright Enforcement takedown notice to their ISP. There's all kinds of legal remedies, but they're generally not cheap, and that's really not a great way to do business. You want to try to stay out of legal stuff as much as you can, and so that's why this is in the disclaimer, so that you can have that conversation with the client, and they have to click through this. And so if they do try to take it to somebody else, you say, hey, you know, one of the things that you approved when you clicked on this was you agreed that this wasn't your intellectual property and you weren't permitted to take this to another vendor. So hopefully you don't have to experience that, but you know, it's nice because it kind of covers you, because they're forced to go over here and click on this little box, and they're forced to approve this. And guess what they just got? They just got an email with the disclaimer verifying. They clicked on the disclaimer. You got an email verifying that too. So there's a nice little email receipt there. And you know where the truth for this graphic is? Right here, because this is approved and it's now locked. And so if I want to take this and file it away now, because it's been approved, all I need to do is go over to Actions and go over here to Archive and then archive it. So where did it go? Well, it's in your archive. So if you go over to your art approvals and go to opens, that's what I'm looking at. But now I just went to archived, and here's all the archived ones. So if you need to call this up and the shirts got accidentally printed on, you printed them on black, but they're still thinking gray. You're like, hey, here's the little comment that you clicked on, which was just to verify the t-shirts are going to be black, the cap is charcoal gray. So one of the things that I'm not a big fan of is long email strings. I've noticed some of the ones in our company back and forth. You know, I've got an email string right now. I think it's probably got 12 or 13 different back and forths on it. Who can find that stuff? But I can just send this link over to this art approval to the client just as a nudge reminder. Here's a link as a little bit of a nudge reminder saying, hey, this is what you committed to when you signed off on it. You approved it. There's all the comments. And I had an email from a client earlier this week. It was really nice. I was excited about it. And the client had indicated that, had two really good emails. This client had indicated that the art approval process in GraphicsFlow helped her out because a customer had approved a design and the kid's name was spelled wrong. And so instead of her having to pay to replace it, she just was able to tell the customer, like, hey, listen, I can't give it to you for free, but I'll do it at my cost, which was, I think, a good equitable solution because the customer had signed off on the art approval with the misspelling on it. You know, you still have to meet the customer somewhere in the middle, but if she had made the error, she would be replacing 100% of the cost of that. And so she took the time to address that. The other one that was cool that I really enjoyed was a customer that was complimenting us on they'd used one of the designs from the stock art customizer and had needed a fish fry design for a local church, and the customer selected a design and she used the stock art customizer to make the changes, and she got it right back to the customer and secured the order. She was like super happy about that. So how can we use the stock art customizer? You can use colorways to do it. And so here's kind of a neat thing. We talked about colorways. If you create a design in the stock art customizer, and we'll actually go through this exercise. So we're going to create a design, and I'm going to click on Pirates Baseball right here. And I'm going to localize this. So I'm going to say customize. And we're going to change this to Cougars Baseball CHS. So go down here, change this to Cougars. Okay. And then baseball, and then this will be CHS. There we go. And this is going to be Central. There we go. The space in there. And then where it says CHS, I'm going to hit the little edit button and make that a little bit bigger. Yeah, looks good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here, and I am going to change the colors. So I'm going to switch the color that is the kind of the cardinal color. We're going to make that like a Pantone gold. I'm going to hit apply. Once it's done color swapping, and then I'm going to save it. So I'm going to go and save this design, and I'm going to put it into my customizer designs here. And I'm going to say save design. So there's that design. So this is colorway 1. So now you need to do colorway 2 because you are going to, create a variation of this that's going to go on black. Okay. So I'm going to pretend this is a week down the road, and we're going to go into my art. I'm going to go into customizer, and we're going to find that design. And it's probably right here. We're going to click on it. You could, by the way, when you save these, you can name them. I just was kind of lazy about that. And so right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say customize this again. And we're going to change the colorways. Now I could change everything in here, but we're going to change the colorways. So what I'm going to do is just take all the black right here, and I'm just going to switch that over to white and hit apply. So we just created a colorways for black. So there we go. And when I go to save, it's going to say updated customized design. Nope, save as new one. And then I'm just going to call this black. Okay. And we're going to put that customizer folder there as well. So now when I'm doing an art approval, I can show both colorways. So I'm going to go over here and we're going to create an art approval out of this. And so I'm going to go to this colorways, and I think I'm still in that same folder. Yep. And we're going to go to this colorways, and I'm going to add this to an art approval. And I guess we can put it back in here. I'll just go put it back in there. I can't remember if I closed this one out yet. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Yeah, here it is. And I'm going to show the customer both colorways. So here's this one. So we're going to put that one on gray. So I didn't have to download this into Corel or Adobe Illustrator or any other program. I just did it right in GraphicsFlow. And then this is the colorways we're going to pick on, which that's going to look great on black. Everything looks great on black. There you go. Did that right in the app. So there's a huge advantage to actually doing the customization to the files in the app, because then you can re-customize it in the app and you can do variations. Because I could have just as easily made this a different school. And I could have gone in and changed out the baseball player to a softball player. I'll put a mascot in there. I can do all of that. So when we're doing this now, if we need the production file, we can just go in and download either a PNG file. So if you're creating a store in Inksoft or with Printavo Merch or whatever your e-commerce platform is, you want to download the PNG file because that has a transparent background and you can use it as a mock-up in your app. You can also download a PDF file. If you want to do some editing in, let's say, Adobe Illustrator, you can use the PDF file. Incidentally, if you're an Inksoft user and you upload the PDF file into Inksoft, you can do colorways. You can actually change the colors in your Inksoft platform from that PDF file. So that's kind of a handy thing if you're using like the Rapid Product Creator in Inksoft. And then if you're a Corel user, you're just going to download the CDR file, and you can just bring that into Corel if you want to do advanced editing, or it's already color separated, but if you need to do like an underbase or something like that, or add or delete a weathered overlay, you can bring that into Corel. For Adobe Illustrator, you're going to want to use the PDF file. So that's a really good use case with art approvals and doing colorways, especially for artwork that was modified through the stock art customizer. Now, last thing I'm going to show you is how you can create one of these art approvals and add it to your, we're just going to add one of these to our art portal, and it's quite easy. So once you created the art approval, and let's see here, this one's kind of fun, actually. I did a bunch of auto repair designs, and these are some sample files I put together for the Inktovo team, so the salespeople could have good looking artwork in their demos. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sharing link, and I'm going to go to invite collaborators, and I'm going to grab the view only link. I'm just going to copy that right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to account settings. And if I have a pro or an elite account, I have the ability to create an art portal. And so I'm going to go to my art portal. And one of the things that's annoying me about the art portal, I'm not crazy about the color. I changed the color to a lighter color. I'm not crazy about it. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to match up kind of that blue. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go to green here. I'm going to kind of go to that green. Looks pretty good. So we're using a green background on it. So I'm going to update that. And and I'm in the button accents. I'm going to go to kind of a blue on that. So we're going to mix this up a little bit. A little grayer on the blue. There we go. And so I'm going to update that. So I just changed my color scheme. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to add links, and I'm going to go and copy and paste that URL in there, and then I'm going to give it a name. We'll call this auto showcase, right? I'll hit apply right there. I'll hit update navigation, so it adds it. And then if I want, I can drag and drop it. So if I want this to be at the top, I'm just going to drag and drop this all the way up at the top. And so this is now going to be the first one you see right before graduation. And then just going to remember, if you do that, update navigation. There you go. So let's go to my portal and we'll just refresh this. And I've got my portal redirect. Yeah, I like the green better. I have my portal redirected to my domain. So if you purchase a domain from one of the popular web hosting companies and you do what's called DNS forwarding, you can forward your domain to your art portal. So your art portal, guess what, functions as your website. So if you don't have a website and you just want a basic website, you got a lot of the rudiments of a basic website. You got your logo, got some information about your company, you've got some artwork, you have the portal, you have a little need help button, you have a contact form, you got all the kind of rudiments of a website. And over here, you can drop in your links for your Facebook and your Instagram as well. So if you want to do that. So I added the auto showcase right here. Customer clicks on that, they can see the auto designs. And in my opinion, this is one of the best use cases for art approvals, getting ideas in front of customers. And again, I can just take this link, zip it off to a customer, and how impressive is that? And I just want to kind of end on this. One of the things that I think is really important in today's marketplace, a lot of times I'll hear customers talk about, I only do artwork that customers provide me. My customers give me the art. I just do their logo. Okay. To me, in my way of thinking, is being somebody that's very experienced in the apparel decoration industry, as both a salesperson selling decorated apparel for the first 10 years of my career, and somebody that's helped customers to sell apparel using software technology for the last 20 years of my career. It's artwork that differentiates you from the competition. It's artwork that sells a product. People don't buy blank sweatshirts or blank t-shirts. They buy a graphic. And if the only thing that you're producing for that customer is their logo, they can get that from anybody. There's nothing that's, other than the fact maybe they enjoy working with you, that's tying them to you. And the other thing is you get a buyer turnover and then you get a new buyer and they don't have that loyalty to you and they find it a nickel cheaper somewhere else, customer's gone. So by engaging the client in the creative process and actually doing what I call lifestyle branding graphics, which is what you see here. This is like a tourist and resort cool graphic. This right here, that's kind of almost like a label. This is a collegiate graphic. This is like a trendy, kind of athletic looking graphic. Here's a patch. Here's another kind of a racing theme. Here's a couple cool patches and a couple different colorways. By utilizing your skills and your tools of your graphics flow to get ideas in front of your clients like this, you're not a commodity broker selling logos on stuff. They have to come through you to get the artwork. And one of the things that I'll hear, a lot of times I hear this from promotional products distributors, my customers aren't asking me for custom artwork. Of course not. They don't think of you that way. They don't think of you as a creative resources. They just think of you as a logo broker. That's how they think of you. You know who all the people that all have creative resources are? It's all the decorators. All the decorators have creative resources. And so, that's honestly, if you're competing against a promotional products distributor, they don't have creative resources and you do, and maybe they have an event that's coming up, the client needs, some merch for an event, and you go and put something together like this, and the distributor has to either outsource that, and they're going to spend a whole bunch of money, which they might not be willing to do, or they, just can't even, quote bid on it. You have a huge advantage. So I'm going to challenge all of you to kind of get out of that logos on stuff, mentality. And I think most of you are probably out of there already, but if you're still kind of in the logos and stuff world, I'm going to challenge you. These are just templates from GraphicsFlow that I just did really simple, basic changes. I didn't change the fonts. All I did is change the colors. And this one, I just dropped the panther in over the wrenches. This one I swapped out, I think it was I can't remember what was in here before, but I just swapped out the clip art here. And then this one, I swapped out the clip art here, just changed the text. I didn't do really anything to these to modify. This one, I did nothing other than change the text. That's it. I didn't even change since 1986. So all of that was done in the stock art customizer. So it's super duper easy to get these lifestyle branding graphics in front of your customers. And I think this is one of the very best uses of your GraphicsFlow platform, of the art approvals function, as well as the art portal. So there you go. So that wraps it up for the class today. Thank you so much for joining me.